What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Fish Aquatics. Today I want to talk to you guys about the terrible advice that I see given all the time, and that is the 1 inch per gallon rule, and I want to tell you why that's bogus. Okay, so the 1 inch of fish per gallon rule. Where did that even come from? So, back when PetSmart, Petco, and all these big chain stores started doing fish, they didn't really have a way to tell people how many fish they could have in an aquarium. You know, could you have 50 neon tetras in a 10-gallon? Could you have 50 in a 5-gallon? Could you have 100 in a 10-gallon? Nobody really knew. So they came up with this rule of 1 inch of fish per gallon. That way, in a 10-gallon tank, you would get 10 neon tetras, and they would have a fairly reasonable life. And you know, that was fairly good for the small tropical fish. But then, what they didn't really anticipate is when we started getting into larger fish, like the we're going to say the Oscar and the red devil. I'm using those as examples, those three fish, because I've had all three, and I can talk about them. So you could have 10 neon tetras, that's 10 inches of fish in a 10-gallon tank, and that works. But if you have one 10-inch Oscar or one 10-inch red devil, and they get about this big, 10 inches, and then you turn around and put that in a 10-gallon tank, that's half of the tank, right? So that's not a good life for that fish, and you shouldn't do it like that. So that's why I believe that the 1 inch per gallon rule is bogus, because you can't measure an inch of fish for every single species of fish and end up with the size tank you need. Now, I do believe the 1 inch of fish as a general rule for tetras and fish that are smaller than 1 cubic inch is okay, question mark. But I feel for larger fish like Oscars and red devils and fish like that, 1 cubic inch of fish per gallon is a much better rule of thumb. So what do I mean by that? So I have a little thing here that I'm going to show you guys, but let's just pretend I'm looking at a larger fish, say an Oscar, all right? And this is the side of the fish. If you're looking at the side as it's swimming past you. This is the nose of the Oscar, and the tail's back here. We're going to look at the dorsal fin and take a 1 inch section out of the fish like that. Right? So you take that 1 inch section out and you turn the fish so that it's facing you, and you're going to see something that looks kind of like this. Right? So this is the measurements for my Oscar when she passed away. She was 15 inches long, and she was about 2 to 2.5 inches wide and about 8 inches tall. Now, that's excluding the fins. That's just the body. Now, if you look at this, per inch, my Oscar was 14 to 16 cubic inches per inch, right? Now, I don't know why anybody would think that a fish this size would reasonably fit in a 10-gallon, right? It's impossible. The fish would never live, because anybody that would put that fish in a 10-gallon is not going to do the water changes on it. So, for some perspective, this little dot that's on here is the size of a neon tetra. Now, at 1 inch per gallon, that would work. But for the Oscar, there's no way. So that's why for larger fish like this, I think 1 cubic inch per gallon is a little bit more accurate. So say you have a 10 inch Oscar, and that 1 inch section is about 6 cubic inches, right? 6 or 7. And then you multiply that by the length of the fish, that gives you 60 or 70 gallons. So most people put one Oscar in a 75. That's a little bit closer. And a red devil, they get about 10 inches. They're a little smaller. They're probably about 5 or 6 inches. and you get about 10, so that's 50 or 60 gallons, which is why I have one Red Devil and a 55. I feel like that's a little bit closer to a proper metric than generally 1 inch of fish per gallon, which I don't think is good at all. Now, I had somebody that I was talking to online today, and they were really driving down my throat that the 1 inch of fish per gallon is brilliant. You need to follow it. Everybody should do it. And I brought up that fact that, you know, you're looking between an Oscar and Neon Tetras, which one do you follow? Because you're not going to take, you know, 10 Neon Tetras and 1 Oscar and put them both in a 10-gallon tank. It's not possible. So that's why I believe that the inch per gallon rule is a bit bogus, and you know, you can't follow that. You have to look at the fish that you're getting and the tank size that you have and think, is this reasonable? And a lot of new people don't get that opportunity to think about that because the store that they're at is really driving the sale down their throat, and they're not going to have the opportunity to make the decision for themselves, and they don't have the knowledge to make that decision for themselves. So 1 cubic inch of fish for larger fish, which would be any fish that their body mass is larger than 1 cubic inch in its own, and the inch per gallon for smaller fish like tetras, I feel is fairly reasonable, but you could probably go a little bit heavier on that. For example, my 29 gallon, I don't think 29 Neon Tetras maxes it out. You could probably do about 50, and you'd be pretty good. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.